transportation development plan. So any new service we put in has to be already listed in that, and we pulled it from there. We tweak it, and then I'm responsible for giving the graphics like you see here, and also building a schedule for it. So they did hit all the focal points. A major point was De Leon, where we know there's a lot going on and a lot to come there. So we wanted to focus on that stretch as well as much as possible. And then going back up to Titus Landings to connect with the existing service. So the passengers could then continue their trip into Coco, Melbourne, and further on, or transfer to continue in Titusville directly if they wanted to. So that's the Titusville route.
I complimented you on by looking at this where you get it. You get all the major residential as best as you could, still getting the shopping and what you call trip generating area. So it's really, really a good job. I hope it gets enough ridership when you keep the route.
We expect that it will, because once again, this is also an area that we've had several requests to implement service, and so we're finally afforded the ability to do that. So we're looking to make it a successful route from the beginning. Same thing with Port St. John. There's been a long-standing, numerous requests for service to this area, and we're finally able to implement service here. So we look at doing the same thing. Look at the high-density residential areas where we can gather a lot of ridership potentially, and then move them down to Coco. The route starts at Coco Commons and then circulates throughout Port St. John. So it doesn't exactly connect up to the Titusville area, but they can go out onto US 1 and then connect to Route 1 going to Titusville from there, or to Coco at the Coco Commons and come into our Coco Transit Center and then go anywhere throughout the system from that point.
Well, you have resolved one of my major criticisms of the old routes from Titusville when they were on US 150 and Garden Street. Most people have to walk a half a mile, 3/4 of a mile to even get to the bus stop.
Mm-hmm.
You relieve so much of that by this new route.
Exactly. And like I said, we work with not only potential passengers in the area, but looking at where we will have the most benefit to the residents of the area. So thank you very much, Pete. The last route, so I'm going to speed through. The last route is, thank you very much, is more of not new service, but we have a Route 26 which operates from Cocoa Beach all the way up to the Melbourne Airport. It's on a 2-hour headway right now. What that means is if you're anywhere along the route and you don't catch the bus as it goes by, or it goes by prior to you get out there, it's 2 hours before you see another bus come along that segment. So what we've done is we've pretty much chopped it in half. The bus goes up to the Publix at O'Galley Causeway, and it stops there, and then we have the connecting route, the original 26, which will continue from that point up to the Melbourne Airport, and both of them will circulate on an hourly headway and meet at that location. So if a customer currently goes right now from, let's just say, Cocoa Beach up into downtown Melbourne, they would have to transfer. Currently they would ride the bus all the way. With the new service, they will have to transfer at the Publix and catch the second bus to continue their trip. But we will have the schedule arranged that those buses will meet at all times, even if one has to wait for the other. So a person that's utilizing the service won't see a loss of a trip. It just won't be as seamless as it was previously. Any questions on any of the routing that I presented? Okay, give me this. I've got Adam first.
Just a quick question. What are the times for the two new routes?
What do you mean by the time?
So you said it's 2 hours when it was one route, now it's two routes. So what is each?
Hourly headway. So 60-minute frequency. So each route takes an hour to get from the start point back to that start point.
I didn't expect it to be that. I thought it would be a little bit more.
No, actually, and that's where I come in most times. The operators may not love me because I make it a little tight on them, but I try to make it as efficient as possible.
Well, my transportation background was telling me it was going to be probably an hour and 15 minutes.
Oh, no, definitely 60-minute.
Yes, sir. Real quick, in your Port St. John loop, I'm sure you've done extensive analysis, but I see you're missing the Walmart on Clear Lake by like what? 3/4 of the there a reason for that?
We're not exactly missing the Walmart, and that's where I mentioned the connection at the Cocoa Commons. So currently we have a route that serves the Cocoa Commons every 20 minutes. So and a passenger can get off of the Newport St. John route, get on the route that goes from Cocoa Commons up to the Walmart. So this route, and this goes back to Mr. Cole's question, he mentioned his plan. I have a 60-minute window to provide the service. This route, I couldn't extend it any further to go to the Walmart. And then there's a secondary issue that I have is a turnaround. I have no way to turn around. And Pete, I'll get back to your something you mentioned. We're trying to avoid going into Walmart parking lots just because of congestion, the potential for accidents, that nature. So where we're there now, we want to come out, and if we're not there, we're not going in. Is our thought process.
So more importantly, what is the lag between popping from Walmart to Cocoa Commons and then Cocoa Commons heading up north? Are you just missing it? Did you wait for the next one?
Nope.
Or you've got it?
I've got it scheduled. So the bus that comes, the Port St. John route has what we call a layover. So it's a 5-minute window where it reaches the Cocoa Commons and sits before it's ready to depart again. Within that 5 minutes, the next bus is supposed to be there within 2 minutes of arrival. So it's got a small window so the passengers can connect once again and continue their trip either from Cocoa up to Port St. John or vice versa. So it allows them hopefully always to see a bus when they get there to get off of one and get onto the next.
I should have known about that.
That's okay. That's a great question.
A more general question for you though.
Mhm.
How do you determine what type of stop are you going to have? There's just a sign, there's a sign on the bench, there's a sign in the covering. Is that like count?
Not yet. So you're getting ahead of my presentation, but I'll say this. Currently, every bus stop that is on a new service is put out is just generally just a physical pole that's put out to locate the bus stop. So it tells the passengers where to get the bus. Secondarily, afterwards, where we identify, like Pete mentioned, the areas that we expect high ridership, we'll put a bench out. We're working with 2 different agencies currently that are going to actually locate benches throughout the county, but they're advertising companies. So they'll determine where the benches would go based on visibility. So let's say this roadway has a high potential for visibility, so they'll look to locate a bench at a bus stop, and then they'll determine that. The third thing, the shelter, is typically we work with a local municipality. So for example, I'll go to it right now. The bus shelters, we recently completed 2 in Vera, one at the government center, one at the health department. That we are working with the Vera company to manage those once they're installed. Next is going to be Merritt Island. We're working with Merritt Island, the redevelopment agency for those locations. Next will be the city of Satellite Beach. Satellite Beach is who we work with for that. So we work with a municipality or an agency because what happens is we sign an agreement with that agency. We supply the capital, the cost, the expense to install, and then they're responsible for the maintenance. So we have this group that we work with that group to identify the locations. And once the locations are identified, Space Coast Area Transit puts up the funds to install the shelter. And then they are responsible after that for the maintenance as far as like the grass trimmings and things of that nature. So,
Okay. Thanks for answering the newbie question.
But that's quite all right. However, I would say one more thing to Pete's question. We are working with another item that you see in the packet is the Intelligent Transportation Systems, our version of ITS. We will have passenger counters. All of our fixed route buses will be equipped with passenger counters, so we'll know where passengers board and alight the vehicle. So if we say, okay, we have a very high concentration of riders at this location, we will know it then. Right now, it's anecdotal. We guess that, okay, this location has this many riders, it's a good location, but in the not too distant future, we'll know exactly how many people are boarding a bus at every individual bus stop. And then we can say, okay, we want to focus on this location because we've got a lot of passengers that board at this location, so we can look to see about putting a bench or a shelter or any additional amenities, a trash can or something at that location in the not too distant future. Let's see.
I share your problem in shopping plazas where the planners are letting these things go ingress and egress for bicyclists and pedestrians. There's no sidewalks, there's no bicycle path to get in there and do shopping. The Walmart in Titusville is pretty damn dangerous if you're on a bike or walking, and that's why you have a problem with your buses. There is no safe way for people to walk in and carry their groceries. Brand new Publix, same problem, no good ingress and egress on Highway 50. The planners that let this go never considered that people might want to go shop on a bicycle or walk. So you want to drop them off on the main road and they have the same problem I do. They have to walk back to the store. And you got to get on the walk in the street and people are making turns and backing up at you and there's really no safe way. So I hear you and we're both crying about it, but until the local planning agencies get down and start providing ingress and egress for pedestrians and bicyclists, you and I are going to have the same problem. How do we get to the front door safely of these shopping areas?
Well, I won't go too much in depth, but I'll say this. I'm very thankful for the relationship that Space Coast Area Transit has with the TPO, because not too long ago, when a development was built, or whether it be an apartment complex, a shopping plaza, we weren't considered. We weren't a part of the discussion. Now with the help of the TPO, we get a seat at the table to have these conversations to say, make sure you consider transit. We get shelters put in on new locations. We get board and lighting pads put in with the sidewalks that are being designed for these locations. So now we at least have the opportunity for them to hear what our needs are, and secondarily that we have passengers that are going to go shopping, that are going to walk to the front door. So consider that as a part of your process when you're developing your parking lot. So that's something I'm glad for as well.
Hey, Terry, I'll be glad to get your buses the hell out of my way.
I don't see how you're going to do that. Just remember, there's a customer getting on and on.
Shopping plazas.
Out of the plazas, yes, that's very helpful. We actually are the next one where we've most recently come out of Merritt Island, Walmart, because we are going to have 2 shelters installed right there on 520, and that allows us to leave the parking lot now, which is something we've been wanting to do for a long time. So,
Peter?
Yeah, the follow-up on what Pete has been saying. In Malabar Road between Weaver and Quarry, they're expanding. And I think it's called the Twins Lakes Estates. They're doing a development in there. Now, this is very near a daycare center and across the street from a hospital complex. That's a perfect place to have a pickup, a bus station.
mm-hmm.
And I was wondering if you're in the planning process, or, are you aware these are going on? And because the developers, they're doing a lot of development in there, and you don't take a lot of land, and your costs are minimal compared to what they're doing. So I think it's a great opportunity to get some free.
So I'll answer that this way. The extent of our service on Malabar Road right now goes as far as Palm Bay Hospital. So you see where that is in comparison to the new development that's going in, which is what, about half mile maybe along, not even that far afterwards. Currently, we don't have any planned fixed route service for that area. It is in our TDP, as I mentioned earlier. However, of course, one of the biggest things that we require is the funding to implement new service. And unfortunately, there's no, we're about to do the next 3 routes. So I would not anticipate seeing anything happen as far as Space Coast Area Transit service prior to that development even being completed.
You don't think a stop there would be beneficial?
I'm not saying that I don't think it would be beneficial. But what I'm saying is, right now, the furthest our service goes is Palm Bay Hospital. And this development, if I'm correct, is about a half mile past that. So right now, our bus comes up Malabar Road, makes the left turn to Palm Bay Hospital, circulates throughout the hospital parking lot, and comes back out, and then returns down Malabar back to Mitten Road. I'm sorry, Babcock. So that's as far as our service extent right now. We would love to implement service from US 1 up Malabar, to connect that area that has no current service, but we're unable to do so right now. So yes, I agree that it would be a great idea to have a stop, but the issue is there's no service. And so a stop being there will be not used because there's no bus to get to it.
There's a lot of construction on that road right now, between US 1 and Babcock.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
And I think there are opportunities to have a good bus route there. You don't have a bus route there
We do not.
between US 1 and Babcock?
We do not. No, there's no fixed route service. That you may see a bus come along that route, but it's what we call a contract route, which is a route where the individuals are being picked up in front of their home and then taken to like an adult daycare, something like that. There's no actual fixed route where you stand and wait for the bus to pick you up along that stretch between US 1 all the way up to Palm Bay Hospital. Nothing at all currently. However, we do have it identified as a location that
There's a
needs
women's
service.
shelter down there too.
Yes, well aware, well aware.
And listen, I see a lot of people on the road.
And we know they're walking.
And
at
it's a
this.
dangerous road to begin with.
Yes, yeah, we understand. And there's no two ways. We do realize there is a need. However, the funding is the issue. That's the restraint that doesn't allow us to implement the service that we recognize is needed.
Any other questions, Jerry?
So I won't go through too much more. I mean, you guys have all seen what's in the packet. I will say one last thing. It's about what we're doing to continue to try to mitigate the spread of COVID-19. You see that we've implemented this density fogging system. We fog our buses once every 7 days or so, which is another way of mitigating the spread by killing the germ spores. I can't even explain how it works myself, but it's a pretty good system from actually what we know. We are now requesting, not requiring, but requesting our passengers all wear masks while on board the vehicle. There's no requirement because there's no mask mandate, of course, but we're requesting. We still are fare free, but we expect to go back collecting fares at the beginning of next month. And right now I'm looking at doing a program that allows for the passenger to purchase their fares on an app, which once they board the bus, all they have to do is show the fare to the, on their cell phone to the operator, and that's their fare versus having to put money in a fare box or coins and things like that. So it's also help reduce the potential interaction between individuals and also working with money and things of that nature. So we're doing everything we can to mitigate the spread as much as possible. And those are the major areas. And if you've got any other questions, glad to answer.
Any other questions for Jerry?
Yes.
Now, route to Titusville, how long is that?
As far as round trip?
Yeah.
Same thing, 60 minutes.
60 minutes?
Yeah.
And how will you promote, when you roll this out in April, how will you promote it?
So we have a marketing, I'm sorry, I cut you off. Can you repeat the last part of the question?
Will you be promoting just to the current ridership, or will you be promoting some other way to chambers of commerce and other meetings?
We have a marketing agency that actually is responsible for that. But what I am looking toward doing, and what we were going to do recently, is promote through chambers, promote through leaflets and flyers to residents in the area. So we hopefully will be able to get the word out to even the individuals that don't utilize the service now or don't even know that a route is going to be implemented. So in advance of the route being put into service, they will know that it's coming. So, but the marketing company is responsible for that. They probably have a much better answer than I can even give.
What's generally the rollout time? 60 days?
We typically put it out 30 days prior,
30 days.
and then the service is implemented after that. You're welcome.
If there's nothing else, thank you, Jerry.
You're welcome. Thanks.
That brings us to our public engagement report. Abby.
Good afternoon. I'm Abby Hemingway. I'm the Public Involvement Officer for the Space Coast TPO, and I'm just going to keep this brief. This is a little recap report that's in your agenda from April to June of this year. So it's kind of at the height of the pandemic. Our outreach and engagement changed a bit since we had to go virtual, and I will highlight just a few things. So First, we rolled out our Vision Zero social media campaign, which is still running right now. And if you want to be an advocate, you can share those posts for us. They're gaining a lot of engagement online. At this time, we normally also push out our project priorities and our tip, which we did virtually, and we talked more about at our open house, which I presented on at our last meeting. And another big takeaway for the next slide for events and education, we had originally scheduled a large summit for the St. Johns River to Sea Loop Summit in February and March, and we had to shift gears a little bit, and that became a series of, I think, a total of 8 webinars online, and they were very well received. Each webinar covered a different topic related to trail network and promotion, and we had a great keynote speaker, so those gained a lot of engagement. This was definitely a learning period time for us, trying to see what would pique people's attention and the type of information that they wanted to consume during this time. And you can even see in social media, we jumped, especially on Facebook, because we were promoting a lot of events and education information there. And then lastly, for deliverables and news features, we were in the news a little bit because of our open house and some of our top projects that were out at the time. But you can see a huge jump in the number of graphics that we had created, which was to promote all these virtual webinars that we were hosting and events. So that's just a little recap for the spring. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Abby?
How do these numbers compare with the last presentation you made when you had people coming in person?
Well, you know, what's interesting that the biggest one was the open house. And for me, the open house, many more people attended than they had in the years past. So last year's open house, only 38 people attended, and this year's 66 people attended online. And then I think we had maybe 5 in person. So definitely there's a difference. People are wanting to attend virtually, ease of convenience, and also, you know, I think it's just a new shift that people want to consume information.
Do we want to mention that in regards to
Oh,
number of attendees?
yes. So we recently also, and I'll report back on this, but we also just held our Minton Road feasibility study, which was held on August 26th. And we had a record number of people attend virtually, which was 65.
But then we had almost 800 people visit the website that was developed, and about 140 people fill out. Compared to like an average, when we do a 4-hour study like that, we see, you know, 30 to 40 people come to a meeting and maybe half of them.
So Minton Road was our first roadway project that we've done completely virtual. Our open house was half like we did it in person and virtually, but this was a very specific corridor study, and it gained a lot of traction. And it's still, if you haven't yet, you can go to mintonroadstudy.com and you can vote for your alternatives there. But a lot of great things happening right now, and it's definitely been a learning curve, but we're seeing some really great numbers come out of it.
Want to follow up with? One follow-up?
Yeah, of course.
Will you continue to do it this way even when we go back to normal?
I think we have to.
Okay, thank you.
I don't think we can, I think we're probably going to have that option. It's just too valuable to get the citizens' input, I think.
I'm looking forward to it. Thank you very much. Great.
Any other questions for Abby? Laura, we have anything virtually? No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moves us on to our local government report. Do we have anything?
I was just going to, trying to remember what some of our agencies talked about at the the TAC meeting. Brevard County did mention the Pineda Causeway extension that the county has under construction. There is a temporary light that is up right now on that project. It is temporary. I think the county's been getting a lot of calls about it. But the expected completion date for that project is summer, early fall of next year of 2021. So that project is moving along very well. And the port gave a report on what's happening there with the pandemic, and they have had to either furlough, layoff, or early retirement of 115 staff. So they definitely took a big hit. And they're very hopeful that the first of next year, I believe, is when they are expecting cruises to get back underway, but it's going to be a little different, I think. Clearly they can't be full capacity. So things are going to be shifting a little bit. But Bob Musser, who's the TAC rep, said that they're financially sound, so they're doing well, but it's very unfortunate that that many members of staff, had to be laid off or furloughed or had to retire early. The $17 million was lost, I think, as of September, and they're expecting probably roughly around 37 million next year, because the full impacts they will know next year. So just kind of shows you how things are, different modes of transportation are being affected. So that's it.
Anyone have any
Just a
other
comment, we were supposed to go on the Mardi Gras, not coming in until next year. And my daughter is planning to go out on it sometime after it arrives in port. My wife and I decided not to go.
Anything else? I just want to comment on Palm Bay. Last month, we had the ribbon cutting for the St. John's Road in Parkway on 95 interchange. It was a long time coming, and that's going to open up development for the southeast section of Palm Bay, particularly Emerald Lakes. And the first phase of Emerald Lakes received final approval just, I think it was last week. If there's nothing else, our next meeting will be October 5th, and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.